Dr. Jamin sat quietly in his chair on the research vessel New Horizon. Around him, his team worked at computer stations, sending what looked like scientific data to other human ships scattered throughout the Vorthak system. The aliens watching their transmissions saw normal research information, star charts, mineral surveys, and biological studies. They didn't realize they were looking at targeting coordinates for every important Vorthak facility within 50 light-years. "How many ships do we have in position now?" asked his assistant Min-ho, speaking in Korean so the translation devices wouldn't pick up their real conversation. 37 so far, Jae-min replied in the same language. "More arriving every hour. The Vorthak think we're evacuating our people. They actually feel sorry for us." Through the ship's main window, they could see Vorthak Prime Station in the distance. It looked like a small metal moon, covered in weapons and docking bays. Hundreds of alien warships moved around it in careful patterns. The station was the heart of Vorthak power in this region. Destroying it would cripple their entire fleet. Min-ho looked at his computer screen. The Golden Path just arrived. "Commander Soo-jin is requesting permission to deploy communication satellites." "Tell her to proceed," Jamin said. "The Vorthak love it when we ask permission for everything. It makes them feel superior." The Golden Path was a large transport ship that looked like it was designed to carry refugees and supplies. The Vorthak had scanned it thoroughly and found exactly what they expected: food, medicine, basic tools, and several hundred scared human families. What they hadn't found were the fusion warheads hidden in the ship's hull. Each warhead was disguised as a support beam or cargo container. The ship's communication satellites were actually cloaked nuclear weapons, each one powerful enough to destroy a city. Commander Soo-jin stood on her ship's bridge, watching her crew prepare the satellites for deployment. She was a small woman with calm eyes and steady hands. She had spent 15 years in Earth's Special Operations Command, learning how to fight enemies that were bigger and stronger than humans. "Satellites 1 through 12 ready for launch," reported her weapons officer. "Dongsu, launch when ready," Soo-jin ordered. "Remember, they need to look like normal communication devices until we get the activation signal." The satellites launched from the Golden Path in small groups. To the Vorthak sensors, they looked like simple communication relays that would help the human refugee ship stay in contact with each other. The aliens barely paid attention to them. Each satellite drifted to a different position around the star system. Once in place, they would create an interdiction field that would prevent any Vorthak ship from jumping to hyperspace. When the battle started, the enemy would have nowhere to run. Back on Vorthak Prime Station, Admiral Torvak was reviewing reports from his intelligence officers. More human ships kept arriving, but none of them seemed dangerous. They were all old, slow, and lightly armed. Most appeared to be civilian vessels pressed into emergency service. "The humans are even weaker than we thought," said his second-in-command, General Vorthak. "Look at these ship designs. They're using technology we abandoned centuries ago." The Admiral nodded. "It's almost sad. They're trying so hard to save their species, but they don't understand that we've already decided their fate. Still, it's useful to have them all in one place. We can destroy their entire remaining fleet without having to hunt them down." What the Admiral didn't know was that the old technology on the human ships was actually advanced stealth systems designed to look primitive. The weak weapons were disguised planet killers. The refugee families were specially trained soldiers with orders to capture or destroy every Vorthak facility they could reach. On the research vessel New Horizon, Dr. Jae-min received a coded message from the shuttle Peaceful Dawn. Captain Hyun-woo was still in his meeting with the Vorthak leadership, playing the role of a defeated human commander. "The captain says the aliens are even more arrogant than we expected," Min-ho translated. "They're not taking any security precautions at all. They really believe we're helpless." "Perfect," Jamin replied. "How long until all ships are in position?" 2 more hours. The Morning Star and the Bright Future are still moving to their assigned locations. The Morning Star looked like a medical transport, complete with Red Cross markings and hospital equipment visible through its windows. In reality, it was carrying a team of combat engineers whose job was to take control of the station's power systems when the attack began. The Bright Future appeared to be a scientific survey ship, the kind used to study new planets before colonization. Its true purpose was to deploy swarms of hunter-killer drones that would systematically destroy every Vorthak ship that tried to escape. Each human ship had a similar disguise: Each crew had trained for months to play their roles perfectly. Each captain understood that the success of their mission depended on maintaining the deception until the very last moment. On the Golden Path, Commander Su-jin walked through the ship's passenger areas. Hundreds of humans sat in small groups talking quietly and looking worried. To any observer, they appeared to be refugees fleeing from a doomed world. They were actually elite soldiers from 12 different Earth military units. Each family was a complete special operations team. Each elderly person was an expert in alien technology. Each child was a communications specialist or weapons technician. "How are our people holding up?" Su-jin asked Lieutenant Yunseo, who was disguised as a civilian doctor. "They're ready," Yunseo replied. "A few are getting impatient, but they understand the importance of staying in character. The Vorthak guards who boarded us yesterday didn't suspect anything." Su-jin nodded. The Vorthak had indeed sent a boarding party to inspect the Golden Path. They had walked through the ship, looking at the scared human families and shaking their heads at human weakness. They had even accepted food and gifts from the refugees, never realizing they were eating next to soldiers who could have killed them all in seconds. "What about the weapons?" Su-jin asked, hidden and ready. "The moment we get the signal, we can have full battle gear distributed to all teams in less than 3 minutes." Meanwhile, other human ships continued their own preparations. The cargo vessel Heavy Lifter was actually a mobile factory that could produce military equipment and ammunition during the battle. The colony transport New Dawn carried terraforming equipment that had been modified into area denial. Weapons. The passenger liner Starcruiser looked like it was carrying wealthy humans trying to buy their way to safety. In truth, it held Earth's most advanced computer systems and the hackers who would use them to take control of Vorthak networks. Dr. Jae-min received another message. This one from the Deep Space Observatory, a ship positioned at the very edge of the system. The crew was reporting that more Vorthak ships were arriving. 3 more battle groups, each with 20 heavy cruisers. "They're bringing in reinforcements," Minho observed. "Do they suspect something?" "No," Jaemin said after reading the full report. "They want to make a show of force when they announce humanity's surrender to the galaxy. They want every other species to see how hopeless it is to resist the Vorthak Empire." This was actually good news for the human fleet. The more Vorthak ships that gathered in one place, the more complete their victory would be when the trap was finally sprung. On Vorthak Prime Station, Admiral Torvak was preparing for what he expected to be a routine surrender ceremony. He had already written the announcement. He would broadcast to the galaxy. Another species had realized the futility of opposing Vorthak power. He looked out the window of his office at the human ships scattered throughout the system. So many vessels, all filled with frightened refugees. It was almost touching how hard they were trying to save their species. Too bad for them that the Vorthak had no intention of showing mercy. The Admiral's aide entered the office. "Sir, the human delegation is ready to present their formal surrender terms. Should we begin the ceremony?" "Not yet," Torvak replied. "Let them wait. Fear will make them more cooperative. Besides, I want all of our ships to witness this moment. It will be good for morale." What the Admiral didn't realize was that Captain Hyunwoo was using the extra time to make final preparations of his own. Each minute that passed allowed more human ships to reach their assigned positions. Each delay gave the engineering teams more time to complete their sabotage preparations. On the shuttle Peaceful Dawn, Engineer Kite made one last check of his systems. The modifications he had made over the past weeks were complete. What looked like a simple diplomatic shuttle was now something much more dangerous. Scientist Nara finished her final analysis of Vorthak psychology and tactics. She understood how they thought, how they would react to different situations, and most importantly, how they would respond when they finally realized they had been deceived. All across the system, human crews made their last preparations. Weapons were loaded and checked. Communication systems were tested. Battle plans were reviewed one final time. The Vorthak continued their normal routines, completely unaware that they were surrounded by enemies. Their sensors showed them exactly what the humans wanted them to see: a collection of primitive ships filled with desperate refugees. The small human shuttle moved slowly through space toward the giant alien station. Captain Hyunwoo sat in the pilot's seat, watching the massive structure grow larger on his screen. The station was huge, bigger than any city on Niue, Earth. It had hundreds of docking bays and thousands of weapons pointing in all directions, "They're scanning us again," said Engineer Kite from his seat behind the captain. He was a quiet man with steady hands and sharp eyes. "Fifth time in the last hour." "Let them scan," Hyunwoo replied calmly. "They won't find anything they don't expect to find." The third person on the shuttle was Nara, a scientist who spent most of her time reading data on her computer. She looked up from her screen and smiled. "The aliens think we're just another weak species coming to beg for mercy." Their shuttle was called the Peaceful Dawn. It looked old and simple compared to the alien ships around them. The hull was scratched and dented. The engines were small and slow. Everything about it screamed that humans were not advanced. That was exactly what they wanted the aliens to think. The Vorthak Empire controlled this part of space. They were tall gray creatures with 4 arms and cold black eyes. They had conquered 17 different species in the past 100 years. Each time they used the same method. They would demand surrender, and if the species refused, they would destroy their homeworlds. 3 months ago, the Vorthak had attacked human colonies at Kepler 442b. They killed everyone, men, women, and children. Then they sent a message to Earth demanding total surrender within 1 year. Earth's government had appeared to panic. They sent desperate messages asking for mercy. They offered to give up all their technology and become slaves. They begged the Vorthak to spare their planet. The aliens had laughed at human weakness. Now Captain Hyunwoo was here with his small shuttle, carrying what appeared to be Earth's official surrender. He had spent weeks making sure every detail was perfect. His uniform was clean but simple. His shuttle carried gifts, art, music, and food from Earth. Everything looked like what scared humans would bring to powerful aliens. "Incoming transmission," Kite announced. A hologram appeared in front of them. It showed a tall Vorthak officer with gold markings on his gray skin. His black eyes looked at the humans with disgust. "I am Admiral Torvak of the Vorthak fleet," the alien said in perfect English. His voice was deep and cold. "You will dock at Bay 94. You will come alone to the conference room. You will not bring weapons." "We understand, Admiral," Hyunwoo replied, making his voice sound nervous. "We're just here to discuss peace. We don't want any trouble." The alien's face showed contempt. "Your species is weak. You build ships like children's toys. You have no real weapons, no strong military, no honor in battle. You are fit only to serve those stronger than you." "Yes, sir," Hyunwoo said, looking down as if ashamed. "We know we can't fight you. That's why we're here to surrender." Admiral Torvak made a sound that might have been laughter. "At least you're smart enough to know when you're beaten. Dock quickly. We have more important things to do than waste time on your pathetic species." The transmission ended. Kite shook his head. "He really thinks we're nothing." "Good," Nara said, still typing on her computer. "The more they underestimate us, the better this will work." The shuttle moved toward the docking bay. Through the windows, they could see hundreds of Vorthak warships. Each one was 10 times bigger than their shuttle. Each one had enough weapons to destroy a moon. 212 ships, Nara counted, plus the station's own defenses. They really want to make sure we feel small and helpless. "Are you nervous?" Kitai asked Hyunwoo. The captain smiled for the first time since they'd entered Vorthak space. "I haven't been this excited in years." As they flew closer to the station, Kite's hands moved over his control panel. To anyone watching, it would look like he was just checking the shuttle's systems. In reality, he was making final adjustments to modifications he'd been working on for weeks. The shuttle's cargo hold was full of what looked like Earth art, sculptures, paintings, and music recordings. The Vorthak scanners had examined them carefully and found exactly what they expected to find: harmless cultural items from a primitive world. They hadn't looked deep enough. Hidden inside each sculpture was a compressed antimatter containment unit. The paintings contained detailed maps of every important Vorthak facility in the star system. The music recordings held targeting data and detonation sequences. "Docking clamps engaged," Kite announced as their shuttle settled into the docking bay. Through the windows, they could see Vorthak soldiers waiting for them. The aliens were tall and strong with advanced energy weapons. They wore armor that could stop most human bullets. They moved with the confidence of beings who had never lost a battle. "Remember the plan," Hyunwoo said quietly. "We're scared humans who just want to live. We're bringing gifts and begging for mercy. We know nothing about military tactics or advanced weapons. What about the other ships? Nara asked, looking at her computer screen. Right on schedule, the captain replied. Far away, at the edge of the star system, more human ships were arriving. They looked like cargo vessels, research ships, and colony transports. The kind of slow, peaceful ships that a dying civilization might use to evacuate their people. The Vorthak had noticed them, but weren't concerned. Their sensors showed ships with weak engines, minimal weapons, and hull designs that seemed decades behind Vorthak technology. If anything, the arrival of more refugee ships just proved how desperate and helpless humans were, Admiral. Torvak had even joked to his officers that the humans were probably bringing their whole fleet to surrender at once. It would save time. Kite stood up and gathered the art supplies they would carry to the meeting. Each item had been carefully designed to look harmless while containing enough destructive power to level a city block. He handled them with the care of someone carrying precious gifts, not weapons of mass destruction. Nara packed her computer and scientific instruments. Her research on Vorthak culture and psychology had taken months to complete. She knew how they thought, how they made decisions, and what they expected from inferior species like humans. Captain Hyunwoo straightened his uniform and checked his appearance in a mirror. He needed to look like exactly what the aliens expected, a defeated military officer from a weak species, coming to beg for his people's lives. The shuttle's door opened with a hiss of equalizing air pressure. Vorthak soldiers immediately surrounded them, weapons ready. The aliens were taking no chances, even with obviously harmless humans. You will follow us, ordered the lead soldier. His voice came through a translator that made it sound mechanical and cold. You will not touch anything. You will not speak unless spoken to. Yes, sir, Hyunwoo replied meekly. We understand. We're very grateful that you're willing to meet with us at all. As they walked through the station's corridors, the humans saw the full power of the Vorthak Empire. The walls were covered with weapons systems. Soldiers marched in perfect formation. Everything was designed to intimidate visitors and show the strength of the Vorthak military. Nara made small sounds of amazement and fear, as if she had never seen such advanced technology. In reality, she was memorizing the layout of the station and noting the locations of critical systems. Kitai stumbled slightly, as if he was nervous and clumsy. The movement let him scan the station's power grid with a hidden sensor in his sleeve. The information would be very useful in about an hour. They passed through multiple security checkpoints. Each time the Vorthak scanned them for weapons, diseases, and hidden technology. Each time they found nothing dangerous, just 3 scared humans carrying art and cultural gifts. Finally, they arrived at a large conference room. Admiral Torvak was waiting for them, along with several other high-ranking Vorthak officers. The aliens sat on one side of a metal table. 3 chairs had been provided for the humans on the other side. Sit, Admiral Torvak commanded. The humans sat down quickly, looking nervous and intimidated. Hyunwoo placed the art gifts on the table with shaking hands. These are for you, he said, from the people of Earth. We hope you'll accept them as a sign of our peaceful intentions. One of the Vorthak officers picked up a sculpture and examined it. It was beautiful, a crystal formation that seemed to glow with inner light. He had no idea that it contained enough antimatter to vaporize the entire conference room. Admiral Torvak leaned back in his chair and studied the 3 humans. They looked exactly like what he expected. Weak, frightened creatures from a primitive world. Their technology was centuries behind Vorthak science. Their military was a joke. Their entire species could be conquered in a few weeks if necessary. So, he said with amusement in his voice, Earth has finally realized that resistance is impossible. You're here to surrender your entire species to the Vorthak Empire. Captain Hyunwoo nodded eagerly. Yes, sir. We know we can't fight you. We just want to live in peace under your rule. We'll do whatever you ask. The Admiral smiled, showing sharp teeth. How wise of you to realize the truth so quickly. Some species take years to accept their fate. Others never learn at all. What he didn't know was that at that very moment 40 more human ships were taking positions throughout the star system. Each one looked like a harmless civilian vessel. The conference room on Vorthak Prime Station was filled with tension that only the humans could feel. Admiral Torvak sat across from Captain Hyunwoo, Engineer Kite, and Scientist Nara. completely confident that he was about to accept the surrender of an entire species. "So," the Admiral said, leaning back in his chair, "let's hear your pathetic terms. What does Earth offer the mighty Vorthak Empire in exchange for the privilege of continued existence?" Captain Hyunwoo looked nervous as he opened a datapad. "We offer complete submission, Admiral. All human worlds will become Vorthak colonies. Our military will be disbanded. Our technology will be shared freely with your scientists. And what about your population?" asked General Vorthak, who was sitting next to the Admiral. "How many humans are there to serve the Empire?" 12 billion on Earth, Hyunwoo replied, his voice shaking slightly. "Perhaps 3 billion more on our colony worlds. We know it's not much compared to your great empire, but we hope we can be useful." The Vorthak officers laughed. 15 billion beings was actually a significant population, but they made it sound like humans were apologizing for their small numbers. Nara looked up from her computer. "If I may, Admiral, I've prepared a detailed report on human culture and capabilities. I thought it might help you understand how best to use our people." She activated a holographic display above the conference table. Images appeared showing human cities, factories, and spaceports. Everything looked primitive compared to Vorthak technology. "As you can see," Nara said in a quiet voice, "humans are primarily agricultural and manufacturing workers. We have some small scientific capabilities, but nothing that would interest advanced beings like yourselves." What she was actually showing them was carefully edited footage, designed to make human civilization look as weak and backward as possible. The real images of Earth's military shipyards, weapons research facilities, and planetary defense networks were nowhere to be seen. "We've also studied your glorious empire," Nara continued, "and were amazed by your achievements." New images appeared, detailed maps of every Vorthak military base, fleet position and command center within 100 light years. The aliens saw them as simple star charts that proved human respect for Vorthak power. They didn't realize they were looking at targeting information that had taken Earth's intelligence services 3 years to compile. "You seem well informed about our territories," Admiral Torvak noted with approval. "It's good to see that you understand the scope of our dominion." "Oh yes, sir," Nara replied earnestly. "We've been studying your empire for months, learning everything we could about your culture, your military tactics, your leadership structure, your communication protocols, your defensive strategies." She paused, realizing she might be saying too much. The Vorthak didn't notice. They were too pleased by what they saw as human admiration for their superiority. Kitai spoke up for the first time. "We've also brought some examples of human craftsmanship as gifts." He gestured to the sculptures and art pieces they had placed on the table. "We know they're not very advanced, but they represent the best our people can create." General Vorthak picked up one of the sculptures, a beautiful crystal formation that seemed to pulse with inner light. "Interesting," he said. "Primitive but not without artistic merit. Our museums might find a place for such curiosities." If he had known that the sculpture contained enough concentrated antimatter to vaporize half the station, he might not have been so casual about handling it. "We have many more gifts on our ship," Hyunwoo added. "Art, music, cultural artifacts. Enough to fill a small warehouse. We wanted to show our gratitude for your mercy." What he didn't mention was that their cultural artifacts were actually a complete weapons arsenal, each piece designed to look harmless while containing enough destructive power to level a city. Nara returned to her presentation. "We've also prepared psychological profiles of human leadership, so you'll know how to manage our people effectively." The holographic display showed detailed analysis of human government officials, military commanders, and industrial leaders. The Vorthak saw information that would help them rule their new human subjects. They didn't realize they were actually looking at psychological profiles of every important Vorthak leader in the Empire. Nara had spent months studying their personalities, their decision-making patterns, their fears, and their weaknesses. "Your Admiral Torvak, for example," Nara said, appearing to read from her notes about humans but actually describing the alien sitting across from her, "shows clear signs of being a decisive military leader who values strength above all else. He responds well to displays of submission but becomes dangerous when he feels his authority is challenged." The Admiral nodded approvingly. "Your people are more perceptive than I expected." "Yes, strength is what matters in this universe. The strong rule and the weak serve." "Exactly," Nara agreed. That's why we knew resistance was hopeless. Humans are not strong. We're not great warriors. We're not brilliant scientists. We're just—" She paused as if searching for words. "We're just very good at learning from our mistakes." Something in her tone made General Vorthak look at her more carefully. "What do you mean by that?" Nara's face remained innocent. "Oh, just that when we do something wrong, we try to learn from it so we don't make the same mistake again. It's probably our only real talent as a species." The humans exchanged quick glances. On Captain Hyunwoo's wrist, a small device was counting down, 23 minutes until the operation began. "Speaking of learning," Kite said casually, "we've been very interested in Vorthak military technology. Your ships are so advanced compared to ours. We noticed that you have over 200 warships in this system alone." 237. Admiral Torvak corrected with pride. "The largest battle fleet in this sector of the galaxy." "Amazing," Kite breathed. "And I suppose they're all equipped with your latest weapons and defenses?" "Of course. Each ship carries enough firepower to sterilize a planet. Together they could destroy a dozen star systems." What the Admiral didn't know was that Kite was actually calculating blast radiuses and optimal detonation points. The information about Vorthak fleet positions would be very useful in exactly 22 minutes. "How do you coordinate so many ships?" Hyunwoo asked with apparent curiosity. "Human fleets have trouble managing more than a few dozen vessels at once." "Advanced communication networks," General Vorthak explained. "Every ship is linked to our command center here on the station. We can coordinate the movements of 1,000 ships as easily as commanding a single vessel." The humans nodded in admiration, but they were actually taking note of critical intelligence. A centralized command structure meant that destroying the station would cripple the entire fleet. Nara looked at her computer screen. "I'm receiving a message from our other ships. They're requesting permission to move closer to the station. The families are frightened and want to be near our diplomatic mission." "Denied," Admiral Torvak said immediately. "Your ships will maintain their current positions. We don't want a crowd of refugee vessels cluttering our space." "Of course, Admiral," Hyunwoo said quickly. "We understand. We'll tell them to stay where they are." What he actually did was send a coded message. "Final positions confirmed. All units ready, 20 minutes to activation." Across the system, 40 human ships received the message. On each vessel, crews made their last preparations. Weapons were powered up. Disguise systems were prepared for shutdown. Soldiers checked their equipment one final time. On the Golden Path, Commander Su Jin watched her chronometer count down. In 20 minutes, her communication satellites would become fusion warheads. The refugee families in her passenger compartments would become assault teams. The medical supplies in her cargo hold would become military equipment. Dr. Jamin on the New Horizon was already preparing to drop his ship's disguise. Hidden weapon ports were ready to open. The scientific instruments were actually advanced targeting computers. The research data he'd been broadcasting was about to become attack coordinates for the entire human fleet. Back in the conference room, Admiral Torvak was growing impatient. "Enough delays. Let's formalize this surrender so we can announce it to the galaxy. Where are the documents?" Captain Hyunwoo reached into his jacket and pulled out a data pad. "Right here, Admiral. The complete surrender of humanity to the Vorthak Empire, signed by our highest leaders." He placed the pad on the table. The Admiral picked it up and began reading. The document was exactly what he expected, a formal admission of defeat and a promise of total obedience. What he didn't notice was the small device Kite had quietly attached to the underside of the conference table. It looked like a simple recording device, the kind diplomats might use to document important meetings. It was actually a localized EMP generator that would disable every electronic system in the room when activated. "This appears to be in order," the Admiral said, still reading. "Your species shows wisdom in recognizing the inevitable. Some take much longer to accept their fate. We're fast learners," Nara replied quietly. 18 minutes left. "There is one small matter," Hyunwoo said apologetically. "Our people would like to know what will happen to them after the surrender. Will families be kept together?" Admiral Torvak stared at Captain Hyunwoo in shock. The human was no longer the frightened diplomat who had begged for mercy just minutes ago. His posture was straight, his eyes were cold, and his voice carried the authority of someone used to commanding others. "You dare threaten the Vorthak Empire?" the Admiral snarled, reaching for his weapon. I'm not threatening anyone, Hyun-woo replied calmly. I'm simply stating a fact. You killed innocent people. Now you face the consequences. General Vorthak activated his communicator. Security to Conference Room 7. We have a situation. I wouldn't bother, Nara said pleasantly, still sitting in her chair. Your security systems are about to have other problems to worry about. On her computer screen, numbers were counting down. 10 minutes, 9 minutes and 50 seconds. 9 minutes and 40 seconds, what are you talking about? Admiral Torvak demanded. What countdown? Kite finally spoke up. His voice was calm and professional, like a teacher explaining a simple concept. Admiral, do you know what humans excel at? We're very good at making things that look harmless but are actually extremely dangerous. He pointed to the crystal sculpture on the table, the one General Vorthak had been handling so casually. That beautiful art piece, for example. It contains compressed antimatter, enough to vaporize this entire section of the station. Both Vorthak officers took a quick step backward. You're lying, the general said, but his voice was uncertain. Am I? Kitai asked. Would you like to test that theory? Captain Hyun-woo looked at his chronometer. 8 minutes and 30 seconds until activation. I suggest you listen carefully, Admiral. I'm about to explain exactly how badly you've underestimated the human species. Across the star system, the final preparations were complete. On 40 different ships, human crews waited for the signal that would drop their disguises and reveal their true nature. Commander Soo-jin stood on the bridge of the Golden Path, watching her tactical display. The ship's communication satellites were in perfect position around the system. When activated, they would create an interdiction field that would trap every Vorthak vessel. All teams report ready, announced Lieutenant Yoon Seo. The passengers are armed and standing by. Dr. Jamin received the same reports from the other ships. The Morning Star's combat engineers were ready to seize control of the station's power systems. The Bright Future's drone swarms were prepared to launch. The Star Cruiser's hackers had already infiltrated Vorthak communication networks. Back in the conference room, Admiral Torvak was trying to understand what was happening. Even if your claims are true, you're still just 3 humans on a station with 50,000 Vorthak soldiers. You cannot escape. Escape, Hyun-woo laughed. Admiral, I think you still don't understand the situation. We're not trying to escape. We came here to destroy you. Nara turned her computer screen toward the aliens. It showed a tactical display of the entire star system. Red dots marked the positions of Vorthak ships. Blue dots showed human vessels. 43 human ships, she announced, each one disguised as a harmless civilian vessel. Each one carrying enough firepower to destroy your entire fleet. General Vorthak stared at the display. Impossible. We scanned those ships. They're refugees and cargo haulers. You scanned what we wanted you to scan, Kaite explained. Humans are very good at deception, Admiral. We've been planning this operation for 8 months. 8 months? Admiral Torvak was beginning to understand the scope of what was happening. Oh yes, Nara said cheerfully. Ever since you murdered our people at Kepler 442b. Did you really think we would just accept that? Did you believe we would simply surrender because you're bigger and stronger than us? 6 minutes left. Every diplomatic contact we've made with your empire, Hyun-woo continued, every trade negotiation, every cultural exchange, it was all intelligence gathering. We studied your technology, your tactics, your psychology. We learned everything we needed to know to destroy you. The Admiral's communicator crackled with static. Sir, we're detecting some unusual energy readings from the human ships. They're not responding to our scans the way they did before. That's because they're dropping their disguises, Kite said helpfully. In about 5 minutes, you'll see what human ships actually look like when we're not pretending to be helpless. Admiral Torvak tried to contact his fleet commanders. All ships prepare for immediate attack on human vessels. Consider them hostile. The response was confused chatter. Sir, which human vessels? There are dozens of them scattered throughout the system. All of them, the Admiral roared. Sir, many of them are in the middle of our own formations. If we fire on them, we'll hit our own ships, Nara smiled. We positioned ourselves very carefully, Admiral. Your ships can't attack us without destroying each other. 4 minutes left. On the Golden Path, Commander Soo-jin received a priority message from the shuttle Peaceful Dawn. It contained 2 words. Execute Thunderbolt. All stations, this is command, she broadcast to the human fleet. Operation Thunderbolt is now active. Repeat, Thunderbolt is active. Across the system, 43 human ships began their transformation. Hull plates slid away to reveal weapon ports. Engine signatures changed as stealth systems were deactivated. Communication arrays extended to their full size. The Vorthak fleet watched in growing horror as harmless refugee ships became warships more advanced than anything in their own navy. Impossible, General Vorthak whispered. Those ships use primitive technology. We saw the scans. You saw what we wanted you to see, Hyunwoo repeated. The question now, Admiral, is whether you're smart enough to surrender while you still have a fleet to command. Never. Admiral Torvak snarled. You're still outnumbered 5-1. We have over 200 warships. 237, Nara corrected. I've been keeping count, but numbers don't always determine the outcome of a battle. 3 minutes left. The first human ship to complete its transformation was the new Horizon. Dr. Jamin's research vessel was now revealed as a heavy battle cruiser bristling with weapons that shouldn't have been possible with current technology. Vorthak Fleet, this is Dr. Jamin of the Earth Defense Force, he broadcast on all frequencies. You are surrounded by forces you cannot defeat. Surrender now, and you will be treated according to interstellar law. Admiral Torvak's response was to order his ships to open fire. The first Vorthak energy beams struck the New Horizon's hull and simply vanished. The ship's defensive screens absorbed the energy and converted it into power for its own weapons. Impossible, the Admiral breathed. No species has energy shields that advanced. Apparently we do, Kite said mildly. Would you like to know how we developed them? We studied your weapons for months, then built defenses specifically designed to counter them. 2 minutes left. The Golden Path launched its first wave of communication satellites. As they spread throughout the system, they began generating the interdiction field that would prevent any Vorthak ship from escaping to hyperspace. On the Star Cruiser, the computer specialists activated their infiltration programs. Within seconds, they had control of half the Vorthak communication network. Your fleet is now cut off from external communication, Nara announced, watching the data stream across her screen. No distress signals will reach other Vorthak forces. Admiral Torvak tried his communicator again. Static filled the channel. What have you done? We've isolated you, Hyunwoo said simply. This battle will be between the ships already in this system. No reinforcements, no retreat, no escape. 1 minute left. The bright future completed its transformation and immediately began launching drone swarms. Thousands of small, fast-moving objects poured from its launch bays. Each drone was equipped with its own weapons and target acquisition system. Impossible, General Vorthak said again. He seemed to have lost the ability to say anything else. You keep using that word, Nara observed. I don't think it means what you think it means. 30 seconds left. Captain Hyunwoo stood up from his chair. Admiral, I'm going to give you one last chance. Order your ships to power down their weapons and surrender. You cannot win this battle. Human ships are weak, Admiral Torvak insisted. Your technology is centuries behind ours. Our visible technology is centuries behind yours, Hyunwoo corrected. Our actual technology is centuries ahead of yours. We've just been very careful not to show it until now. 10 seconds left. Kite reached under the conference table and activated his device. Every electronic system in the room immediately shut down. Emergency lighting flickered on, casting strange shadows on the walls. What was that? General Vorthak demanded. That was to prevent you from giving any last-minute orders to your fleet, Kite explained. From this point forward, your ships are on their own. Captain Hyunwoo's chronometer reached 0. Throughout the system, every human ship simultaneously opened fire. The shuttle Peaceful Dawn, still docked at the station, began its transformation into something that had never existed before in the galaxy, a zero-point energy cascade weapon. Kite's months of careful modifications were about to turn a simple diplomatic shuttle into an engine of total destruction. You wanted to see what happens when you underestimate humanity, Hyunwoo said to the shocked Vorthak officers. Watch closely, Admiral. The explosion that consumed Vorthak Prime Station was visible from 3 star systems away. What had been the pride of the alien empire, a massive fortress containing their most advanced technology and 50,000 soldiers, simply ceased to exist in a flash of energy that briefly outshone the local sun. Captain Hyunwoo, Engineer Kite, and scientist Nara had escaped the station just minutes before the cascade detonation, using a hidden emergency shuttle that had been concealed within the peaceful Dawn's hull. As they flew away from the expanding ball of destruction, they watched 237 Vorthak warships try desperately to understand what had happened to their command center. Phase 1 complete, Kaite reported calmly, as if he hadn't just triggered the most powerful explosion in recorded galactic history. Station destruction confirmed. Cascade effect spreading to nearby ships as planned. The energy wave from the station's destruction was not just an explosion, it was a carefully designed chain reaction that would disable or destroy any Vorthak technology within a 50-kilometer radius. Dozens of alien warships found their systems failing as the cascade effect reached them. All human ships report ready for Phase 2, Nara announced, monitoring communications from the rest of their fleet. Across the star system, the 43 human vessels that had spent days disguised as helpless refugee ships were now revealed in their true form. Each one was a masterpiece of advanced engineering, built with technology that the galaxy had never seen before. Commander Su Jin's Golden Path had become a massive assault carrier, launching wave after wave of fighters and support craft. The refugee families in her passenger compartments were now revealed as elite military units, each team equipped with weapons and armor that made them more dangerous than entire Vorthak. Platoon's Dr. Jamin's New Horizon had transformed into a heavy battleship, whose main guns could crack the surface of a planet. The scientific research he had been conducting was actually target analysis for every Vorthak facility in the system. The Morningstar's medical disguise had hidden the fact that it was actually a specialized warfare vessel designed to capture and control enemy infrastructure. Its doctors and nurses were combat engineers who could seize control of an entire space station in minutes. Vorthak fleet is in complete disarray, reported Lieutenant Yun Seo from the Golden Path's tactical station. They're trying to regroup, but our interdiction field is preventing them from coordinating effectively. The communication satellites that Commander Su Jin had deployed were now active as interdiction generators. No Vorthak ship could jump to hyperspace. No reinforcements could arrive from other systems. The alien fleet was trapped and isolated. Admiral Torvak and General Vorthak had died in the station's destruction, along with the entire Vorthak command structure for this region. The surviving alien ships were commanded by junior officers who had never faced anything like the human fleet. Human ships, this is Captain Vextar of the Vorthak Cruiser Domination, came a transmission on the emergency frequency. What are your terms for surrender? Captain Hyunwoo, now aboard his command ship, smiled grimly as he replied, Terms? Captain, you seem to be confused about who is surrendering to whom. The battle that followed was not really a battle at all. It was a demonstration of just how far ahead human technology had advanced. Vorthak energy weapons simply bounced off human shields. Vorthak ships moved like they were underwater compared to the speed and agility of human vessels. Vorthak tactics, designed to work against other alien species, were completely ineffective against enemies who had studied them for months. Within 2 hours, every Vorthak ship in the system was either destroyed or captured. The few that survived did so only because the humans wanted prisoners to interrogate. But the destruction of the Vorthak fleet was just the beginning. As news of the battle spread across the galaxy, other alien species began to realize that everything they thought they knew about humanity was wrong. The primitive Earth species that many had dismissed or ignored was actually the most advanced civilization in known space. On the planet Zerion, homeworld of the Quellian Federation, President Mothara watched the battle recordings with growing alarm. The Quellians had been planning their own attack on Earth, assuming that humans would be easy prey. Cancel all military operations against human space, she ordered her generals, immediately. Similar scenes were playing out across dozens of worlds. The Bruthan Empire, which had been preparing to demand tribute from Earth colonies, suddenly found urgent reasons to avoid human space entirely. The Zephyrian Dominion, which had considered humans barely worth noticing, began reviewing their diplomatic protocols. On Earth itself, the reaction was quite different. In the command center of Earth Defense Force headquarters, Chief Science Officer Daeun was coordinating similar operations on 6 different fronts. Operation Thunderbolt successful, she reported to the assembled military leaders. Vorthak Regional Fleet completely eliminated. We're ready to proceed with Phase 3. What's the status of the other operations? Asked General Park, the overall commander of Earth's military forces. Operation Lightning Strike against the Bruthan Empire launches in 6 hours, Daun replied, checking her displays. Operation Whirlwind will hit the Quellians tomorrow. The Zephyrians don't know it yet. But Operation Tornado is already in position around their capital. System, the truth that was now becoming clear to the galaxy was that humanity had been conducting simultaneous intelligence operations against every major alien power for years. What the aliens had seen as separate, unrelated diplomatic contacts were actually parts of a coordinated campaign to gather information and position forces for exactly this kind of coordinated strike. How many ships do we have deployed? General Park asked. Over 400 vessels in 30 different star systems, Daun answered, each one disguised as harmless civilian craft until activation. Each one carrying enough firepower to eliminate entire enemy fleets. The scale of human preparation was staggering. For 3 years, while alien species had dismissed Earth as a minor power, humans had been building the most advanced military force in galactic history. Every human merchant ship, every exploration vessel, every diplomatic mission had been part of the intelligence-gathering effort. Captain Hyunwoo's voice came over the communication system from the former Vorthak territory. Operation Thunderbolt Phase 3 complete. All Vorthak military installations in this region have surrendered or been destroyed. We're beginning construction of human-forward operating bases. Within days of the battle, human engineering teams were converting former Vorthak shipyards to produce Earth vessels. The aliens who had planned to enslave humanity now found themselves working under human supervision to build the ships that would enforce humanity's new position in the galaxy. Dr. J. Min had been placed in charge of the scientific analysis of captured Vorthak technology. What they found confirmed what Earth scientists had suspected. Alien technology was actually centuries behind human development in most areas. Their weapons are powerful but crude, he reported. Their ships are big but slow. Their computers are advanced by the standards of 1,000 years ago, but they're practically Stone Age compared to our current systems. The question that alien leaders across the galaxy were now asking was how humanity had managed to develop such advanced technology while appearing so primitive to outside observers. The answer, as Nara explained to the Galactic Federation Council when they demanded an emergency meeting, was simple. We learned from you. Every species we encountered taught us something, she continued, addressing the assembled alien diplomats via hologram. The Vorthak showed us how to build powerful energy weapons, so we built better ones. The Quellians demonstrated advanced shield technology, so we developed shields that could absorb and redirect energy attacks. The Bruthans had impressive ships, so we designed vessels that could outperform them in every category. But we also learned something else, she added, her voice becoming harder. We learned that most of you consider other species to be either servants or enemies. You have no concept of actual cooperation or mutual respect. The Federation delegates listened in uncomfortable silence as she continued. The Vorthaks murdered innocent colonists. The Bruthans demand tribute from weaker species. The Quellians practice slavery. The Zephyrians believe they have the right to rule over everyone else just because they're older. So we decided, Nara concluded, that the galaxy needed new leadership. Over the following months, the scope of humanity's transformation of galactic politics became clear. The Vorthak Empire was dismantled, its territory divided among the species they had conquered. The Bruthan tribute system was ended by force. Quellian slave markets were shut down by human task forces. Species that cooperated with Earth's new order found themselves protected and aided. Those that resisted discovered just how thoroughly humans had infiltrated their territories. Engineer Kaite, now in charge of human shipyard operations, was overseeing the construction of vessels that dwarfed anything previously seen in the galaxy. The new human dreadnoughts were the size of small moons, each one carrying enough firepower to sterilize a solar system.